between 1600 and 1800, there were many Christian missionaries that went to Japan, Jesuits, Roman Catholics. I imagine some Protestants maybe went over there too. And there were many Japanese Christians. And one of the tests that the government employed to find out who is a secret Christian was to have them step on an image of Jesus. Okay. Now, many of them refused because they believed in this iconic principle that if you're desecrating this image of Christ, you're also showing disrespect to Jesus. Were these guys just idiots because they were crucified for not for refusing to step on this image of Christ? Were they just dumb?
No, they had sincere beliefs.
Were they wrong?
Theologically, in terms of where I am, not necessarily, because even I wouldn't do that. Why? Because with the Japanese, their intent by getting someone to step on an image of Christ is to dishonor Christ. And so minimally, as regards the intention, the mental constructs of those presents, especially
interesting. So they thought that by stepping on an image of Christ, you're disrespecting Christ. Do you think that?
Not necessarily.
The thesis basically is the practice of iconodulia. That is the performance of the venerative act towards material images, such as communicates honor through it to the prototype. Is that an apostolic practice? So it's very specific. That's what they're.
And the Orthodox perspective is yes, absolutely, that is an apostolic practice. In fact, I will show tonight, not only is this practice apostolic, but it long predates the apostles and is part of how God instructs Israel to worship. Iconodulia is in fact one of the best ways to demonstrate that the Holy Orthodox Church has continuity in worship and is how God has always instructed his people to worship. So let's get into what exactly that is. I'll start with 4 biblical evidences that independently each of these meet Paul's criteria. First, the tabernacle is an image of the divine assembly worshiping God in the heavenly liturgy. Bowing toward the tabernacle passes through the material image to the spiritual reality it represents. 2, the cherubim on the veil of the tabernacle and the temples are an image of the cherubim in heaven, delivering the incense offering of the people to God. The incense literally passing through the material image of the holy cherubim into the Holy of Holies, likewise passes through to the spiritual reality that the image represents. Third, the first and second temples, like the tabernacle, are images of the divine assembly worshiping God. Bowing towards the temples, likewise, passes through the material image to the spiritual reality they represent. And last but not least, the cherubim on the walls of the temples, both the first and second, are images of the divine assembly worshiping God. Invoking the cherubim in songs passes through the material images to the spiritual reality that they represent, inviting them to worship with the earthly liturgy. Now, after the incarnation, of course, this changed. God presented himself as man. That's why in the Holy Orthodox Church, we represent Christ as presiding over the divine assembly, because he is God. Now we see the spiritual reality in Revelation depicted in the layout of the tabernacle. In that, the altar of incense is very intentionally placed literally right in front of the holy images of the cherubim on the veil, corresponding to the spiritual reality we see in Revelation, that the incense comes to God from the angel's hand. The incense is offered on the altar of incense every morning and every sundown, and it literally, as I said, passes through the holy images of the cherubim and is delivered to God, filling the entire temple. By the way, this is an important thing to notice. Does this look familiar to anybody, Orthodox Christians in the audience? Does this ring any bells, this burning incense, and you have the images of the cherubim right here? That's what we do in the Orthodox Church, man. The Holy Orthodox Church today still does the same thing. We offer a sacrifice of incense up to God through the holy images of the saints in the divine assembly. So the cherubim on the veil in the tabernacle are a holy image. They are a window to a heavenly reality that Moses saw on the mountain and that John saw in Revelation. Offering incense to God through the holy image communicates honor to the spiritual reality depicted. So those are the 4 examples in the Bible that meet literally every single one of Paul's criteria: the tabernacle, the cherubim in the veil, the temples, and the holy images in the temple. But you might say, Alex, aren't these all in the Old Covenant? What does that have to do with the apostles. You know, they're under the new covenant, right? The issue, what's at issue in this debate is whether veneration of images such that that veneration passes to the prototype is that apostolic, right? Does that come from the apostles? Did the apostles worship this way? Of course they did. Of course it's true. God never retracted his instructions on how he prefers to be worshiped. He already told us how he wants to be worshiped, and it's in a way that reflects the worship in heaven. And the apostles recognize this. That's why we're told in Luke and in Acts that the earliest Christians continued worshiping in the temple. They didn't just throw all of this stuff out. This is why after the destruction of the temple, you see holy images in Christian places of worship. They correspond to the holy images that you see in the second temple, in the first temple, in the tabernacle, going back. Let's go there. Where's the altar of incense?
I'm asking you to.
Where is the altar of incense? Where is it?
For the Holy of Holies.
And what's there? What's in front of it? What's immediately in front of it?
The curtains shielding the presence of God.
So when you walk up to the altar of incense and you light it, what are you looking at?
You're looking at the altar of incense.
Immediately behind the altar of incense, what are you looking at?
They're literally, that's the whole point, actually. They're not looking at something. That thing is being shielded by the curtains. They are directing
what is
their
on the
honor
curtains
towards
that they are looking at? What is on the curtains that they are looking at? What are they looking at as they light the altar of incense?
There are cherubim on the curtain.
Okay, thank you. There are cherubim on the curtains. Yes. Okay.
And
what is the role of the cherubims? What's the role of the cherubim?
They are
in Revelation 8 specifically. Sorry. In Revelation 8 specifically, what is the role of the angels?
They are offering up the prayers of the faithful on the incense bowls to God.
Okay, so isn't it true that when a priest walks into the holy place and he walks up to the altar of incense and he's lighting the altar of incense, offering it up to God, he's looking directly at the cherubim?
He's looking towards the curtain, yes.
Okay, thank you. The curtain that has the cherubim. Thank you very much. Briefly, I want to do right by the other Paul. I don't want this to slip past me later, but I do have the quote from St. Gregory of Nyssa here on his homily, the Martyr Theodore. The language is, these spectacles strike the senses and delight the eye by drawing us near to the martyr's tomb, which we believe to be both a sanctification and blessing. And then he goes on to say later, in this way, one implores the martyr who intercedes on our behalf and is an attendant of God for imparting those favors and blessings which people seek. Now, this language is seen by scholars like Robin Jensen on this. Eric Thuno has an article on this as well. Both of them see this as seeking intercession through an image where the image is like, it's a part and parcel with the relic, where the way you identify the relics of the person is through the image that is there. And then when you venerate the relic, it's just part of the package. You also venerate the image. So this is the scholarly opinion on this. I'm not making this stuff up. Doing great. Did St. John Chrysostom, did he say that the image of St. Meletius is holy?
The holy image of Chrysostom, yes, he did. The question is, how is it holy? Why is it holy? Yes.
So he said the image of St. Meletius is holy?
Yes, he did.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. There's demonic powers on the other side of those altars because of the powers being invoked.
Okay, and in the images also, do you think there's a demon on the other side of that?
There can be. Some people, they can just be absolute delusional, but sometimes demons can absolutely work their power through these images.
Okay, so then the honor that you give to that demonic image passes to the demon?
Yes.
Okay, but it's not the same for images of Christ?
No, not necessarily, because it is entirely consistent to believe. Absolutely. Great question. Really good question. Because that's really, that's one of the core arguments I prepped for, actually. I'm surprised Alex didn't bring it up a little bit more. I think he alluded to it a bit. But that's absolutely true. Yeah, our veneration of men, us as the image of God, that passes to the prototype God himself. The problem for this debate is that there's an equivocation on what is meant by image. Man is the image of God. Actually, it was more like, well, no, this is the word of God itself in print. This scroll is a holy relic in itself. And so we're actually giving honor to that. And of course, through that, by extension, to God. So yeah, there is actually that sense where in the bare logic.
So in sum, of course, iconodulia is apostolic. It's pre-apostolic. Iconodulia is Mosaic. It was preserved through the first and second temples, and it became the inheritance of the Holy Orthodox Church today.